Welcome to Rewitched, a charmed 1998 rewatch podcast. Join us on our journey as we recap, examine, and critique the series episode by episode from the beginning.
We'll be keeping our podcast spoiler free, so we welcome fans, new and old, to join us in watching and reflecting on one of our favorite shows.
Currently, we're on season 3.
I'm your host, Jess Sabanko.
And I'm your host, Mia Sobanko.
Now let's get into this week's episode.
This week, we're discussing Season 3, Episode 14, The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed. It originally aired on February 15th, 2001, and had 5.15 million viewers. This episode was directed by Shannon Doherty.
So we open and we're at one of those Old West ghost town type of places during the day. We see this crow in a tree cawing. And then a car drives in and pulls up, and we see Phoebe and Victor get out. And she asks him what they're doing there, and he says, "What? Can't a father spend a little quality time with his daughter? Especially after all the time we've been apart?" And he walks over, and they put their arms around each other and start walking. And Phoebe says, "I take after you. I've inherited all your tricks, especially your fine art of fibbing," calling herself out for all her lying in the past few episodes. He says, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then he changes the subject. He's like, "Tell me a little bit more about this Leo fellow anyway. How did he and Piper meet?" And she says, "Oh, it was a couple years ago at the house. He was our handyman." And he's like, "Piper's marrying a handyman?" And then Phoebe realizes that he doesn't know that Leo's a whitelighter and thinks he's just a mortal who knows the secret. He talks about how he didn't know before him and Patty got married, so it's good that Leo does. Then we see this door on one of the building opens and closes with the wind, and Phoebe notices it and then kind of says that it's nothing. And Victor asks if she's getting a premonition, and it turns out that he wants her to help him because he was thinking of investing in this place, which has some ghost stories attached, and no one's done anything with the place in over 100 years. And then Phoebe starts hearing voices that Victor doesn't, and then we see this transparent type of cowboy push a native man, who we find out is named Bo, out of the saloon. And Phoebe yells what's going on, but they can't hear her. Then the cowboy says, "Nobody crosses Mr. Sutter," and picks up Bo from the ground and punches him. And his ghost flies right through Phoebe. And then Bo starts running away as the cowboy shoots at him. And then Victor asks what's going on and notices that her lip is bleeding. And she says, "I wouldn't buy the place, Dad." And he looks around.
So quite an intro. I love it, that we have an old Western, set kind of going on here. Makes me very happy. I love that.
It's kind of like when we did the 20s episode, and I was like, I love the 20s aesthetic. I love the Western aesthetic too.
Me too. Both aesthetics are so much fun, so cute, which is why every time we have episodes like that, I live for it.
Yeah. You listeners don't know this, but I own a cowboy hat. I have a cowboy vest. I really love the Western look. I think it's so cute.
Yeah, she's very much into it. So we both were very excited about this episode. But funny that we have Victor again.
I know.
He's here. He's back, I guess.
I guess he's keeping his promise about staying involved in their lives.
Yeah, that makes me really happy to see.
Makes me happy too.
And of course, him not knowing about Leo being a whitelighter. When Patty was with her whitelighter, definitely not.
I'll have more to say about that later, for sure. For now, I'll just kind of say it exists.
It is a thing, yes. But aside from that, the whole ghost running through and this Bo situation, obviously going to be a big factor. And I'm looking forward to see how the episode goes and plays into that.
Yeah, and the way there's obviously going to be some connection between him and Phoebe, as we can tell from her getting the split lip in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm interested in this whole Phoebe and Victor dynamic that's being established. I think it's cute, and I'm interested to see how it continues to develop.
Me too. So then we go to the theme song, and after that we go back to the manor and are in the dining room, And Piper is finishing up setting the table, and it looks all fancy with flowers in the middle and a tablecloth and really nice dishes. Then Prue walks in and says, "Wait a minute, we have one too many place settings." And Piper's like, "No, we don't." And she's like, "You, me, Leo, Phoebe, Dad, that's 5. We have 6. Who's the 6th for?" And she was like, maybe, Mom." And she's like, "What? It's my wedding. At least she could be here in spirit, if nothing else." And then Prue hugs her and says, yes, she can be. Then Leo orbs in and says that everything looks great. And she's like, "Leo, can't you see we're having a sister moment?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry. Do you want me to go?" And she's like, "No, I want you to help. This is your rehearsal dinner too, you know." And Prue says, "So, Leo, you nervous? Only one more week before dum dum da dum." And he's like, well, as long as no demons come bursting through the door until then, I'm fine." And then Victor from outside says, "Prue, Piper," and then the door opens and him and Phoebe come in. And Piper's like, "You had to jinx it." And they all go over to Victor and Phoebe.
So I like this scene. I think it's really cute. The way Prue's really understanding about Piper wanting to include their mom here. We kind of saw the opposite of that in last episode. So
Yeah, quite the opposite of her agreeing with her being in spirit. Right.
yeah. Also, I love the way like they call out the little sister moment, and Leo's like, "Oh, like, do you want me to leave?"
Yeah, I
Like,
know. Like, oh, sorry, but no. Help.
yeah, seriously, why do men think they don't have to help with these kinds of things? To your wedding too, Leo.
It is. Pay attention. Help out a little bit. Beats all. But yeah, no, I like this scene. It was just a very cute general scene setting up the whole rehearsal dinner situation.
Yeah. So then we're over in the entryway and we see that Phoebe has like a napkin on her lip, and Prue asks what happened. And she says that she's fine, and Victor says he doesn't know. And Phoebe says, "I got into a bar brawl." Well, actually, I didn't. 2 cowboys did. Bo and some other guy. I didn't catch his name. But I think he was the bad guy because he was wearing a black hat. Oh, and they were transparent. And Victor starts saying he wouldn't have taken her there if he knew. And Leo's like, "Here, let me take care of that." And Phoebe says, "No, I'm all right." And Victor looks confused. And Phoebe tells Victor to go get the town files from the car, so he leaves. Then Phoebe's like, "Dad doesn't know that Leo is a whitelighter." And Prue and Leo are both like, "What?" And Piper like smiles awkwardly and says, "Well, I've been meaning to tell him, but considering Mom had an affair with her whitelighter, I didn't think he'd be really receptive to the idea." And Leo's like, "Piper, he's gonna kill me when he finds out." And Piper's like, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. You're already dead." Then Victor walks back in with a box and says that it's some background information that he got for the investment and that he doesn't think it'll help. But Phoebe says, "Well, you're the one who called it a ghost town, and since Bo fell through me and I ended up with the same split lip he had." Prue says, "Sounds like a ghost to me." And then Leo starts giving some facts about ghosts, and Piper like makes a noise. He's like, "I mean, I've read it in books. It's obviously not my area of expertise." Victor says, "Mine either. What do you say we leave the supernatural stuff to the pros and go grab a bite?" So they leave, and Piper says, "Great, now I'm dead." And then Prue says they need to focus on Phoebe, and Piper goes to get the book and makes a joke about needing to get a drink too.
All right, so I love this whole scene, them being so secretive about Leo being a whitelighter and having to conceal it from Victor. I'm surprised that it hasn't come up in front of him before. Oh, I guess she has not really met him, or I mean, he hasn't really met him.
Yeah, it was really only that one time towards the end of the episode.
Right, the new ice cream man.
Yes.
Exactly. That is kind of funny. So I like this whole dynamic of all of that. And then obviously them trying to figure out about this ghost town and why this is happening to Phoebe and how they can fix this situation.
Yes. And I'll have more to say about this later when him and Leo actually talk about it. But like the way they're saying that like Patty had an affair with her whitelighter, like
Yeah.
it's very clearly been established that Victor left because of whatever happened with Grams.
Mhm.
And then later Patty and Sam got together.
Yeah, that's not, she didn't have an affair with him.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I mean, later in the episode, when Victor talks about it, I mean, yeah, we could talk about it more then, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't even say that she had an affair.
No, he just like we'll talk
Yeah,
about
we'll
it when
talk
we
about it
get
when we
there.
get there. But yeah, no, so aside from that, the whole rest of this scene, I feel like it's a lot of them trying to figure out what's going on and all be on the same page about it. Obviously, that slight little Victor and Leo don't know about each other kind of thing. And I think that's all I really have to say there. Kind of waiting till more happens.
Yeah, I mean, most of this is plot. We get kind of, what we could already see, which was the connection between Phoebe and the ghost. Her little idea that one of them's a bad guy because of the black hat, which is one
Right.
of my favorite things about Westerns, is the way they establish like the idea that good guys dress in all white and like bad guys dress in all black.
Right. I love that. It's funny to me.
Yeah. Also, I just want to call out Victor a little bit for being like, if I knew, I never would have brought you there. You literally brought her there specifically to see if it was haunted.
Exactly. Like you
Like,
quite literally did bring her there for that. Don't fib right now.
fabricating the past right now.
Mhm. So then we move to this diner, and Victor and Leo are sitting at a table, and Victor says, "So Phoebe says you're a handyman." And he's like, "Oh, actually no, I'm a doctor. Not a doctor per se, more like a counselor doctor. I guide people." And he's like, "You make good money?" And Leo says, honestly no, it's more of a calling." And Victor says, "Leo, I think it's time to come clean. I need to talk to you about something man to man, from one mortal to another. It's not easy being married to a witch. That's why my marriage to Piper's mother didn't work out. It wasn't because I didn't love her, it was because I wasn't prepared for what was to come. I want this marriage to succeed. That's why I'm warning you. But there are dangers out there worse than demons and warlocks. The dangers I'm talking about, you're not even going to see coming. The thing I'm talking about will just sneak up on you and destroy your marriage if you're not careful. Leo, do you know what a whitelighter is?" And then he looks away. Oh my god, the drama here was beautiful.
No, I love it. It's so funny, like all the build up to like that. Leo, do you know what a white light
I
is?
know, just for a whitelighter. Okay, I mean, a bit dramatic though, worse than demons and warlocks. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
no.
Yeah, I don't know
He is
about
a
that.
high drama king,
I know,
honestly.
seriously. I'm living for it. And that's
Like
where they
this
all
is
get it from.
Piper gets her super dramatic tendencies
That's what
from.
I was saying, that's where they all get it from, Victor. That's crazy. But I love this, and Leo trying to be like very concealed about it.
He's like, I'm a doctor. Well, not a doctor, like a counselor.
Yeah, like doesn't really know what to say. Oh my god, this is perfect.
Also, the way that like the first thing Victor asks about is like, do you make good money? Because he wants him to take care of Piper.
I know, that is sweet.
But also, Piper is a business owner, so she doesn't need a man to take care of her.
Exactly.
So then we're back in the living room at the manor, and Prue is looking through the documents, and Piper's looking in the book. Phoebe's laying back on the couch and notices that there's like a huge bruise on her side, and they assume it's also from Bo, but they're not really sure how or why they're connected, just that it has something to do with the history of the town. Phoebe mentions that the cowboy said something to Bo about someone named Sutter. Maybe he's a demon. Then Prue notices that nothing in the documents is dated after April 25th, 1973. It's almost like time just stopped. And Piper's like, so everybody just died? She's like, no, like stopped moving forward, literally. It wouldn't be the first time we've come across a time loop. And Phoebe says that they vanquished that demon, like referring to Tempest, but he wasn't vanquished. He was just moved out of their time.
Right.
But whatever. And then Piper finds a page about time loops and says that maybe it's a curse and that certain spiritual traditions believe that a great evil or great injustice can be cursed into a time loop until it's righted. And Phoebe thinks that their job is to right the wrong then, and the doorbell rings.
So first of all, I thought they said something about the town never. It's been like 100 years that nobody's done anything, but it stopped in 1973.
1873, so it's been over 100 years.
Oh,
Oh, I read
Yeah,
that
so you
wrong.
said that, and I was like, I'm like, maybe she meant 1873.
I
so
did.
was a
I
little
did.
bit
I
confused.
apologize. Sometimes I make typos in my notes.
It's okay.
guys.
I was a little confused because I was like, I feel like it was.
Yeah, so it's been
before that.
20 years. The Old West was actually in the 70s.
I know, that's
guys.
why I was like, this can't be right. But anyways, aside from that, I kind of like that, the whole, oh, we have to go there and right the wrong, and, it's got everything stopped, and that it might possibly be a time loop.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's very interesting.
I know, this is kind of the first time. I mean, we've technically been through the time loop, but that was with a demon going after them. We've never, like, seen someone stuck in a time warp like that, like, that's really cool. If that is what's going on, which, I mean, they assume so.
Yes. I'm also going to bring something up because it is mentioned for the first time here. They talk about how certain spiritual traditions believe this. And the episode is doing some cultural appropriation here that I don't know if they're kind of like doing the research or things they should be doing to talk about Native American traditions. Based on the history of this show, I'm going to assume they're not. And, could be slightly inaccurate and offensive, but
Wait, where?
because as we're going to learn later in the episode, it's like from Bo's dad that this curse came. So they're saying that like the Native American people like created this curse basically because of the injustice done onto them by the white people. So they're making it kind of like this revenge narrative, which could be slightly offensive.
I never saw it as, I never even really thought about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was Bo's dad that caused the curse.
He says it later. We can talk more about it when we
that.
get to it, but
Yeah.
it's just since they're mentioning it here and they're saying certain spiritual traditions, it's very clear
Right.
what they're doing.
talking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, after the doorbell rings in the entryway, Prue goes to open the door, and it's Cole with flowers, and he walks right in, and he's like, hey, Prue, long time. Is Phoebe home? And next thing you know, all you see from the living room is Cole going flying into the room. And then Phoebe gets up and is like, what the hell? And then he says hi and gives her the flowers. And Prue is like, what the hell are you doing here? Do you have some kind of death wish? And he said, well, I told Phoebe last week I wasn't giving up on her, and I meant it. And he's all smiley, like, with her, and Piper's like, you talked to Phoebe? He talked to you? And Prue's like, you said that he was alive. You never said that he was back. And Phoebe said it didn't matter because as I told him, I don't want anything to do with him anymore. And Prue says, well, in that case, and then she's about to throw him again, but Piper stops her and says, I just set that table. We don't have any time to buy a new one before dinner. And Cole says, I'm not going to use my powers against you anyways. In fact, I'm never going to use them again, ever. It keeps me from being evil. And Prue says, no, you will always be evil. You're a demon. And he says, half demon. My human half can suppress it if... And then he notices Phoebe's hurt and asks what happened. And she tells him it's none of his business and starts to tell him to get lost. But then she has a premonition of Bo being shot and throwing a knife at the cowboy. And she falls to the ground and her sisters catch her. And she tells them that she thinks she's been shot. And they all look at her and then at each other. And as like there's blood all over her. So that took a turn.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Real quick. So the way Cole just waltzes right in like he belongs there,
Nothing happened.
top tier comedy. I love it.
Phenomenal. It's been like so normal, like, oh, hey, Prue, what's going on? Like,
and like then when he just comes flying into the room, so funny, so well done.
Hilarious. That was perfect.
Also,
Absolutely.
when he's just like being all smiley at Phoebe, I was like, swoon.
I know, like kind of cute, honestly. Like he really does.
You want to know why he gets away with all of this? Because he's so fucking good looking.
He is. He's so fine. He's so fine. And he's so charming. Like enough.
Yeah.
But then, of course, that's the last thing they really have to focus on because now Phoebe's been shot because Bo was shot.
Yes.
And they've got some sort of psychic link.
Yeah, which is clear because it came from a premonition rather than a direct interaction like last time. The only other thing I'll mention here is the way, she was keeping it a secret that they talked. Now her sisters know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she's still saying she wants nothing to do with Cole. And Prue is very much convinced that Cole can never be good. And maybe we'll see more of that. going forward, or at least in this episode.
Exactly. Agreed. Looking forward to seeing how it goes and how the situation progresses.
Yeah. So then we're back at the diner, and Victor's saying, the thing is, they can orb into their charges' lives any time of the day or night without us mortals even knowing about it. You can't trust the whitelighters, Leo. They're sneaky little bastards. And Leo's like, really? Because Piper says they're really, really good guys, more of like guardian angels. He says that's the party line, Leo, but don't believe it. You can't trust them. They have this tendency to fall in love with their charges. Before you know it, they've stolen your wife. The girl's mother, Patty, she fell for her whitelighter. And Leo says, I thought that happened after you two separated. He says, oh, he was putting the moves on her long before we split up, believe me. And we never had a chance to get back together because of him. And, then she died. Look, my point is, if you want to, and then Leo hears the whitelighter jingle, and he says, I have to go. Now. And I don't think you're going to like the way I have to go either. And he like smiles awkwardly and just orbs out in the middle of the restaurant, and Victor is shocked.
As I imagine all the other humans in the restaurant are as well.
Yeah. Like,
what was that, Leo? Like, I get it for the plot, but what?
No, literally. Like, you couldn't have gone to like the bathroom or the back hall or outside
I know,
or literally anywhere.
Right in the open. Like, what a good way to
Gotta
find
go.
out.
Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.
Vanishes. Not great. So, again, they're making it very, Leo was like, that happened after you separated, right? And he was like, oh, well, he was putting the moves on her. It's obviously coming from a jealousy standpoint, which is like, understandable. I feel like guys tend to do that a lot and make things sound different than they actually
Yeah,
were.
like he's trying to make it seem like you didn't leave your wife and then they got together, like he like was like swooping in.
Right, like that's not kind of how that went. But
also the whole, well, we couldn't get back together because of him.
Come on. Yeah. I don't know about all that.
Maybe don't be on and off with your wife then, Victor.
Yeah, I know. Would be a better husband. Father. Next time. But that is so funny the way he's just shitting on him, and the whole time Leo's like,
He's like, well, Piper told me.
Yeah, like, well, based on what I heard.
But that they have a tendency to fall in love with their charges.
That was good. That was so good.
I was like,
he's not wrong.
True. So far, every whitelighter we've met except Natalie fell in love with their charge. So.
Yeah. So can't deny it.
Be that way.
So now we are in the living room back at the manor, and Phoebe is just on the couch dying, and Leo orbs in right next to Cole and looks at him and says, what the hell are you doing here? And Prue says, forget about him, Leo. Phoebe's been shot. And he's very confused, and he tries to heal her, but it won't work because Bo was actually the one that got shot, not her. And he says it's a psychic echo. Phoebe is linked to Bo somehow. Whatever he feels, whatever happens to him, happens to her. And Cole says, which means Bo must be magical too. The only way they can be linked is through their magic. And Leo says, I agree. And Cole says, we have to find Bo, heal him, it's the only way. And Piper says, well, he's been cursed into a time loop along with the rest of the town, and we don't know how to get there. And Cole says it must be a parallel plane. And Prue's like, we don't really need your input. And Cole says, if I can help save Phoebe's life, then you sure as hell do. And Leo says, we're listening. And he says, look, I move through different planes all the time. It's how I've been hiding from the source. It shouldn't be any problem to shimmer into Bo's plane, bring him here so you can heal him. And Piper says, you said you don't use your powers anymore. And Cole says, shimmering isn't a lethal power. Then Phoebe asks why doesn't he take Leo so he can heal Bo there? And Leo says, I can't. I'm not allowed to work with a demon. And Prue says that she'll go, and Piper's worried that she won't make it back by midnight and get stuck in the time loop. And she says she's not worried about that. And then she says that Piper and Leo should go to the town and see if they can find anything to help break the curse. Then Phoebe tells Cole and Prue to play nice. And Cole says, you gotta hold my hand. And Prue's like, this already sucks. And they grab each other's hands and shimmer out. I love this. So it's gonna be Cole and Prue. That is phenomenal to me.
It is. And It's probably because they're dating in real life, but the chemistry between these two is immaculate, and, like, I love every interaction they have together in this episode, beginning with this one.
Oh my god, I forgot they dated in real life. They were dating at this time?
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Or at least, like, they were about to date if they
Right.
weren't already together, but yeah.
And then the
It
whole
was during season 3 that they were dating.
Phoebe and Leo, too, during the Piper thing. That's so funny that they have to act so different.
Mhm.
Oh my god, but I love it. So I like this whole idea of, like, you know, they have that psychic echo and that they can't heal Phoebe because it didn't happen to her. So they have to go into this time loop and kind of figure it out from there. And how Prue and Cole are gonna have to be the ones that work together.
Yeah.
Beautiful to me.
It's nice to see, like, Leo going back to his character, because I remember we talked about last episode when he's like, "Too bad we can't work with a demon," and now he's like, "I could never work with a demon."
Right, exactly. He's like, too bad that demon's not here to help us. And then now he's like, I'm not allowed to work with a demon. Sorry to say.
Like, quite the switch up.
Yeah. I do wonder how, if that becomes a consistent thing. Because if Cole comes back into their lives, Leo's gonna be around. So how would that go, you know? I
Yeah.
guess we'll have to see how, if they ever do or don't, you know?
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on whether or not we ever see them working closely together.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, not to spoil things, but I feel like we're all getting the sense that Cole's going to be around for a bit.
Right. Cole's gonna be around for a little bit. I honestly don't even remember if we do see them actually working like super close together or anything, but I'm definitely curious to keep that in mind, you know, when watching in the future.
Yeah, definitely. If, like, it's just kind of like they both work with the sisters, or if they ever have to team up in any way.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, this scene just works really well. The connection of Magix and Bo being magical is interesting, and I'm excited to see, like, more of what'll happen with him and Phoebe. Hopefully, she doesn't keep getting hurt because of him, because poor Phoebe.
I know. Poor Phoebe. Very sad.
And poor Bo. But, like,
Of course, but
you
we
know.
don't know Bo. We know
Yeah, we
Phoebe.
don't know him yet. So then we're in the manor in the living room, and Victor comes in yelling. He's like, "Leo, you lying little piece of," and Piper's like, "Dad, not now. Stay with Phoebe. We'll be back." And Leo wraps his arms around her and they orb out, and he looks at Phoebe and she's like, "Well, don't get mad at me. I've been shot."
Yeah.
Comedy in this episode is so top tier. Like,
It
the
is.
writing here is so spot on.
They do such a good job in this episode. It's honestly one of my favorites of the season. But
One of my favorites of the entire show.
yeah,
honestly,
me too. But yeah, no, that was just kind of a little comical moment going on there.
Exactly. And, giving us that idea that Piper and Leo are going to follow the plan and go to town. And obviously, Victor's going to be there to take care of Phoebe for the time being.
Exactly. So now outside of the ghost town, Prue and Cole arrive and she can't believe that it worked. And then we hear a gunshot and he pulls Prue back into an alley and they're like weirdly close and he's like surrounding her and talking very close to her face. And he's like, "Welcome to the wild, wild west." And she's like, just so we're clear, I'm in charge here. You're just my ride." And he says, "Fine with me. What's your plan?" And she says, "Find Bo, lay low." And he thinks that he has a better plan, but first they need new clothes. And then she pushes him away from her, and they see a dead body being laid out.
So inappropriately close to each
I
other.
hated that.
Like I would never be like with your boyfriend.
I know, like literally touching, and he's like got his arms like surrounding her. It's like very, very weird.
Yeah.
And they stay like that for like the entire conversation. Why?
Yeah.
Like as soon as she was safe, you should have just
moved back
Yeah.
and had a conversation like normal people.
Right. I mean, I will say it's nice to see him consider her safety again.
Yeah.
Another plus. But yeah, that was like really weird, intimate moment that did not need to happen, and it did not work for me.
And again, it's like the chemistry between them is so strong that like creating that scene creates this like weird sexual tension that I don't want to be there
I
between
know.
Prue and Cole because bleh.
Yeah. Like if that was the situation was supposed to be with them, they would work so well together. But the fact that it's supposed to be with Phoebe and like, that's her sister, it just comes across really weird. Like, why would you ever put that in there? Nobody wants to see that happen between them.
No, not at all.
Like, I'm not sitting here rooting for them.
Yeah. Though I do really love the conversation. I don't
too.
love the closeness, but like, the Prue really establishing those like, I'm in charge, you're just here, and him being like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I like it, definitely fits their character, and the conversation works really well for me. That's honestly probably the one main negative thing I'd have to say about all this is just the closeness. It's
Yeah,
a little weird.
definitely. So then we're at the saloon and we see Cole and Prue walk in wearing cowboy outfits. And Cole says, I still think you should have worn that pretty little red dress drying on the line. She says, yeah, that was a prostitute's dress. Not exactly the kind of impression I wanted to make. At least I'm not wearing some dead guy's clothes. He says, I thought you'd be pleased. At least I'm playing the role of a good guy. She says, yeah, right. Okay, just fact finding, no getting involved. And they walk up to the bar and she tries to order moonshine. And the bartender, like, what? And Cole's like, you watch too many old movies. And she says, you'd be confusing me with Phoebe. He says, not a chance.
Love that.
Then the bartender asks Cole, and you can tell because he's looking literally only at Cole as he talks, and says, are you guys just passing through? Cole says, maybe. And he says, maybe if you're not, you ought to consider it. Things are getting pretty dangerous around here. Friendly advice, wet your whistle, get back on your horses, and move on as fast as you can. Then Prue calls him out for ignoring her and asks what's so dangerous, and he laughs and says it's nothing to concern your pretty little head about. And she starts to say something, but Cole reminds her that they're trying to lay low. And then he asks what's the dangerous thing, and the bartender tells him that there's some trouble with a powerful man in town, and Prue asks Sutter. He's like, how do you know about Sutter? She says, this pretty little head knows a lot, so why don't you talk to both of us now? Tell us what's going on. And so he starts looking between the two of them as he's talking and says, one of Sutter's men just got killed, and now there's going to be hell to pay. Then the door opens and they all look, and three guys walk in, one of them with a big gun. And then we see a native woman looking at the door. Then some black boots with spurs slowly walk in as like this music plays and it's really intense. And the doors open slowly, and we see a man dressed all in black and a whip in his hand, and everyone looks terrified. And the man says, where is he? I've already taken liberty to print up the evening edition, just so you know how serious this is. And he holds up the paper, which says, half breed to die at sundown. Yikes. Then he walks over to the woman and says, you know where your little brother's hiding now, don't you? She says, even if I did, I'd never tell you. I'm not afraid of you, Mr. Sutter. He says, well, if you were smart, you'd be. Of course, your kind are not, are they? Yikes again. And Prue's about to step in, but Cole holds her back. And he turns to this guy, and the guy says, I haven't seen Beau, Mr. Sutter. I swear, not since he took off. Then Sutter nods to one of his guys who walks over and just stabs this dude in the hand. And Sutter says, you lie to me again, Cal, and I'll do worse than this. Then Prue walks over and is like, what's wrong with you people? And like pulls the knife out of his hand and pushes the guy into a table. And Sutter says, lady, I don't know who you are or where you come from, but you obviously don't have the slightest idea who you're dealing with. She says, oh, please, what a cliche. And the guy gets up and walks over saying he doesn't usually hit women, but since she's dressed like a man, he'll make an exception, and goes to take a swing at her, and she just kicks his ass. And then this guy pulls a gun and shoots at her, and she grabs two, and Cole grabs one, and they have this like big standoff. And Sutter tells his guys that they'll deal with these two later after they take care of Beau. And one guy looks at Cole and says, this ain't over. You and me, we got a score to settle. And they all back away to the door, and then Sutter threatens to burn the town to the ground looking for Beau, and they leave. Cole says, so much for laying low. And Prue says, yeah.
Ooh, what a scene here. Things getting hot and heavy. I loved this scene so much. Even, of course, because I already know you're going to bring it up, the little racist half-breed and your kind. But to be fair, I think they're impersonating how people treated them at
And
that time.
Sutter is supposed to be a bad guy.
Exactly.
So They're painting the racism like, this is a way to depict racism well in a show, is you're clearly making the person doing it a villain.
Yeah, not like one of the good guys saying something like this. Like, it's very
Yeah.
obviously
Like, it's
supposed to
clear
be
the
that.
show doesn't condone what's
Exactly.
going on.
Exactly. And then Prue, good try, but I knew she wasn't going to be able to not get involved.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Going back to the beginning of the scene, I mean, the whole prostitute's dress thing, like, the way Prue's being treated as a woman in this time is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it shows a lot of the ways that, like, times have changed, but they also haven't. Because we've seen so many times in the show the sisters having to fight for things because they're women.
Yeah, it's definitely not a new thing. It's not something that ever fully has gone away, even now. But you can definitely see the difference how way back then it was like they weren't even a consideration, like, oh, don't worry your pretty little head, like just talking to Cole and
Yeah. And the way, like, Prue, as a modern independent woman, reacted to that was
right.
really interesting and well done in this scene.
And he had to kind of be like, hey, you're trying to blend in here. You can't do that.
But also interesting that a woman of this time
Mm-hmm.
was just as willing to stand up.
Oh yeah.
And I really liked seeing that because it shows that these women who were boundary pushers and strong have
Mhm.
always existed. It's not just because Prue is from the 90s that she's like that.
Right. This is what got us to the point that we are at, is women like that.
Exactly.
So I definitely enjoyed that. I enjoyed the whole drama of Sutter and like the whole cowboy walking in and the standoff. Like it worked really well for me. It felt very like old Western, like iconic.
Yes, and I just have to give Shannon Doherty so much props because she did direct this episode. So
Yeah.
obviously all of this is coming from her creative mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it is gorgeous to look at. It's really well put together. The music, the shots, everything, the slow motion
Yep.
use throughout the scene. It's really well done.
Living for it. I really am. So I definitely enjoyed, and them talking about the danger. We know something's going on in this town. Sutter's trying to take over, and for some reason we still don't know why, but he's after Bo.
Yes. And of course, we're also getting that sibling connection, which will be interesting
Mhm.
because this girl wants to protect her brother, and of course, Prue's goal is to save Phoebe.
Exactly. So, now outside, still in the ghost town, Cole and Prue are walking out with Bo's sister, Isabel, and she's telling them that Sutter's been there a couple of months and promised to bring the railroads in for a piece of the mines, bank, and paper. And then said people used to stand up to him and his boys until they killed the sheriff. And now he's after Bo because he was trying to convince everyone else to keep fighting and take back the town. Then Prue tells her they know Bo's been shot and they can help her, but she needs to trust them. And she says, I do. Bo said you'd come. He saw it in one of his dreams. And she tells them that their father also had dreams of the future. When their father died and they moved to this town, their mom didn't want Bo to talk about his gift. She knew that magic was considered evil in the white man's world. And Prue says, yeah, I know what it's like to have a gift that you can't have to keep a secret. And Cole says, yeah, and live in a place where you have to hide half of who you are. And then she leads them to 3 horses, and they start to get on, and Cole says, I say we eliminate the threat first, kill Sutter, probably break the curse anyway. And she says, yeah, well, we don't know that, which is why we need to go to Bo first. Cole, if you want to try your hand at being good, your first instinct shouldn't be to kill. And they all ride off, and Cal watches them and gets on his horse to follow.
So here we're clearly finding out what the connection between Phoebe and Bo is. They both have this
Visions
psychic
of the
ability.
future.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that we're finding that out. I love Isabel kind of immediately trusting them and knowing, like, you must be the people that he was talking about, and just having that faith and that instinct and preparing for them. And of course, Cole's little comment at the end, it felt right, that he's not just fully knowing how to be completely good, that his first instinct still is to just get rid of the threat. And Prue's like, well, to be good, that's not how we do things, not when you're good. And you could tell on his face when she says it, like, it kind of hit him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's realizing what we were talking about last episode, which is his motivations are still very selfish. His only goal here is to save Phoebe.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think he really cares about Bo. He just cares that Phoebe doesn't die.
Exactly.
Whereas Prue wants to help Bo just as much as she wants to help Phoebe.
Right, wants to save everybody. The whole situation wants to save the town.
Yes. Also, interesting thing with Cole here, when he talks about having to live in a place where you have to hide half of who you are, is he talking about having to hide his human half in the demonic world? Or is he talking about now trying to suppress his demonic half to be good?
I think he's talking about suppressing the demonic half, but both could work because he knows how both ways feel, you know?
Yeah, because I was kind of initially, I was like, well, he's talking about trying to be good. But then I'm thinking, and I'm like, I actually lean more towards him talking in the other way because that's an experience he's had for a long time. Like, for so long, he talks about, because even last episode, he was talking about it, having to suppress his human side in order to blend in the demonic world.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That could very well be the case because I didn't even consider that.
Yeah, because the way that they're talking about it here, what's happening is a negative thing, right? Like,
Right.
they have to hide their culture to blend in the white town.
Right.
So
So
he
it
had
shouldn't be a
to
bad thing
hide
to...
his good side, we'll say,
Mhm.
to blend in the demonic world.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying. That would make a little more sense, actually, yeah.
Yeah. And, obviously something's going on with this guy, Cal. We got to keep an eye on him.
I know, who the hell is this guy?
Feels like a rat to me.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting.
And then, of course, we get Sutter's backstory that they killed the sheriff and that.
That's how he gained his kind of control and power over the town.
Yes. And so his beef with Bo is because Bo wants the people to stand up for themselves.
Exactly.
So then we're still in the ghost town, but we flash to modern day and we see that crow on the roof again. And Piper and Leo are walking around, but they're not really sure what they're looking for. Leo says that they need to find something so that they can get back to the rehearsal dinner.
So
Why is that the
fucked
priority right now,
up.
Leo?
I know.
What the hell? But whatever. So Piper says there's not going to be a rehearsal dinner or a wedding if we don't find a way to save Phoebe. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then she notices that the crow lands on top of the saloon and they decide to go in. And he makes a joke about bringing a nerve tonic back for Victor because, he doesn't like that Leo's a whiteliner. And then they notice this newspaper and it's the same one that Sutter was holding up. And they see that the person who was going to be killed is Bo Lightfeather and realize that Prue and Cole don't have until midnight and neither does Phoebe.
Dun dun dun. So them going to this town, even though it was modern day, actually did serve a purpose, and they came to a realization. So I like this scene. Not super, a little weird that Leo said that, but glad Piper backed her up. And because usually I feel like we see Piper doing that.
Yeah, having the one track focus
Exactly.
and then having to be corrected by somebody. But here it's Leo.
Yeah, he's picking up on her bad habits.
You're like, oh, the rehearsal dinner.
What about Phoebe's life?
Literally.
Did you ever consider that?
It's fun. Maybe Victor's right about these whitelighters being no good.
Awful. I only get bad vibes from them.
Also, the crow just like being helpful. Like, shout out to you, crow.
Yeah, seriously, iconic. This guy it knows what it's doing. Obviously meaningful. We keep seeing him. Some sort of like token or omen of, the time loop.
Yeah.
It's the vibe I'm getting from the crow.
Though, like, honestly, and we could talk about this at the end of the episode, but I'm not really sure what the crow represents.
Yeah,
it feels a little random to me.
It was definitely
like he was pretty and it was cute, but I was like, I don't feel like there's a direct symbolism that really becomes clear.
Yeah, no, they don't really clarify anything like that, but I mean I just had to make the assumption because it always is lingering.
Yeah.
Weird. Maybe that's like what can break the time loop kind of thing, like when he
the crow's the only thing that exists outside of it.
Yeah, or something like that, and can like I don't know. You know what? We'll have to talk about that once we get there and maybe talk about our own ideas about it.
Okay.
But anyways, back in the living room at the manor, Phoebe's laying on the couch and she's like in really rough shape. And Victor brings her some water and sits with her, and he wants her to talk to him, and she tells him that she's dying and it's something that she can feel deep inside her. She can't explain it. And he said, your sisters are not going to let that happen. I am not going to let that happen. And then Piper and Leah orbit, and Victor looks at them, and Piper asks how she is, and Victor says she's going to be fine. They tell him they found out that Bo dies at sundown, and they have an idea on how to let Prue know. And Leo said, Phoebe, if you're getting visions from Bo, maybe he can get one from you. Then Piper pulls out the paper and wants her to try to get a premonition about his death so that he can see it too, so he can tell Prue and Cole. And Victor says, I thought you said you can't always get premonitions when you want. And she says, I can't. And Piper's like, but you can try. And she hands her the paper, and Phoebe holds it and is shaking really bad and closes her eyes. At least the effort's there.
Poor Phoebe.
I know. To have to do all that while you're dying and, like, try to force your magic and everything.
I know. And the way, like, Victor's like, I won't let that happen. Cute, fatherly, but, like, how the hell are you actually
what
gonna pull that off?
Yeah,
Like,
no. She's gonna be fine. Is she, though? Like,
yeah.
do you really know that? I don't know. I mean, we're hoping so, but
Yeah.
she's not looking like she's gonna be fine.
Like, something tells me they're not gonna kill off one of the main characters, but,
I would
like,
hope not.
who knows?
God only knows.
Then we'll just have the power of two, I
The
guess,
power
from
of
now
two
on.
we'll just have to do.
Like, we have 4 more seasons, but
It's just 2 people after that.
yep. I mean, it's a good plan to try to get a message to
Yeah.
Bo, but we'll see how that works out.
Exactly.
So then we're back at the ghost town and we're outside and in the past. And Cole says, any idea what we should say to him? Prue says, you're not going to say anything. I'm doing the talking. He's like, it wouldn't kill you to be nice to me. She's like, really? It's funny that you should say that considering how many times you actually tried to kill me. True.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's all in the past, Prue. Like, God, Prue, just move on.
Yeah, get over it. Come on.
And she laughs and says, right. After all this is done, you need to leave us alone. Otherwise, we'll have to do what we should have done in the first place, which is vanquish you. He says, then that's what you're going to have to do, because it's the only way you're going to keep me away from Phoebe. Psychotic, but also kind of romantic.
Literally, like, I'm kind of loving that. That is so hot.
And then Isabel walks over and asks them if they're ready to go in and notices them staring each other down and asks if something's wrong. And Prue's like, no, nothing I can't handle. And they all walk in towards the building.
So I love this little scene between them and the energy between him and Prue and him being so, like, hell-bent on whatever you want, Prue, but, like, I'm here for Phoebe and I always will be. Like,
Yeah.
kind of love it. Definitely. That's
Like,
more
it's
toxic behavior.
kind of
but
stalkery, kind of toxic.
Mhm.
Like, Phoebe's told you multiple times to leave her alone. Like, if she didn't later, I mean, spoiler to the end of the episode, decide that she's okay with this, like, it would start to get really, really creepy
Yeah, like,
and
yeah.
not okay. Like, he needs, like, the demonic form of a restraining order right
Right,
now.
yeah.
Like, serious advice to anybody, if someone tells you, that they don't want you around, don't continue pursuing them.
Even if you feel or know that they actually do want you there and do still love you, if they're trying to better themselves and move forward without you, you gotta let them do it.
Yes, and the truth is, if they really want you, they'll come back.
Exactly.
Let them do that. Don't be like, I'm never going away.
Right.
Too toxic.
Just let it happen. Just be good. Do what you need to do. Take care of yourself, and then maybe it'll happen.
Yeah, like maybe go off on your own and do some actual good deeds.
And then maybe she'll actually be a little more drawn to you then.
Yeah.
Instead of forcing your way back. I mean, it is kind of cute, but also a bit much sometimes.
Like, in a story, it's romantic. In real life, it's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's always how it goes.
I also like the way that this kind of mirrors Phoebe and Cole's scene from last episode where she was like, if you don't leave, I'm going to vanquish you. And now Prue's like, if you don't leave, I'm going to vanquish you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Deal.
Yeah.
I like it too.
And it shows those similarities between their characters that I feel
Mhm.
like we always talk about.
Right. I definitely agree. And I do overall just love this little moment here.
Yeah. Again, the chemistry between these two is really good. I love the enemies like
Yeah.
vibe that
The
they have.
intensity.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
It's great to watch on screen.
It is. So now we're in this old church that's kind of like looks abandoned, and there's a dove cooing up on the roof, and they open the stained glass doors and walk in. Then Isabel tells them he's very weak and that she couldn't get the bullet out. And then they approach him where he's lying there with a blanket in the corner, and he looks at them upset and says, "What's the matter with you? Who the hell are they?" And she's like, "It's okay, they've come to help." And Prue says, "Just like in your vision, remember?" And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And Isabel says, "Bo, I told them." Then he turns and looks at her and says, "Too much, apparently." Then turns to Prue and says, "We don't need your help. Just leave now." And Prue says, "Bo, my sister gets visions too. And she had one of you getting shot. We're here to help you." And Cole says, "And help her." Then he pulls a knife from his belt and says it's a trick and that Sutter sent them. And Isabel says, "No, they stood up to Sutter. You should have seen it." And then he tells them to go again, and Cole says, "We're not going anywhere." And Bo says, "I know that look. Sutter's got it too. You're evil. I can sense it." And Prue says, "All right, then just look at me. You can't say the same thing about me, can you?" And says, "Bo, this isn't just about you, all right? My sister will die too. This whole town will, if you don't let us help you." Then Isabel tells him about the curse and says that their dad used to talk about ones like that. And Prue and Cole look at each other, and Prue says, "If we show you that we have gifts too, will you trust us then?" And then he looks at them, and Prue's like, "Show him." And Cole's like, "Show him what?" She's like, "Your gift. Show him your gift." And then Cole shimmers in and out, and Isabel smiles, and Bill looks shocked.
So this was kind of what I was talking about, where they mentioned that the curse comes from kind of like Bo's father's people.
Okay, like, I mean, I don't know that it says that it's coming from them, really.
I think they make a more direct reference later, but here they're saying like that their dad used to talk about those types of curses, so it's
Yeah.
part of their like cultural traditions, I think is kind of what we're supposed to get from it.
Right, but what's wrong with that?
It's not wrong if someone native was writing it and creating the story, but you can't just take stories from other people's cultures and represent it however you want to. Like, you can't take a tradition and change it in your own way. Like, I don't know how much research and how much actual, like, because they're not mentioning a specific culture. They're not doing something that shows me that, like, oh, we looked up this specific group of Native American people from this area who have this belief about this. They're just saying, like, oh, he's like native and native people are magical. And like, so they have this idea of curses and they're going to curse the white people who did bad to them.
I don't know, it did not come across to me like that. I don't think they're saying that they cursed them. I think they're saying, like, the curse happened based off of what happens here in the town. That's what we find out later, is like, that's where the curse came from, that's where the time loop came from, not from Bo's people. It's pretty much just saying, like, oh, like, we've heard of such things, we believe that curses do exist. Like, that's how it came across to me.
I read it more as like, it was very specifically because this injustice was done to Bo.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but it felt like I thought of it like not someone cursing him, like it just brought upon the curse, like that did happen. You know, I mean, I guess I see what you're saying. I just like I didn't think of it that way. It didn't come across to me like that.
And I'm not saying that like people can never tell stories from outside of their culture because I don't think that. I just think that like there needs to be specifics that show that you know what you're talking about and you're not just like using it because you think it's fun.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and like bringing in literally someone from the culture is the very minimum you can do to like make that
Mhm.
work.
That's true. But aside from that,
I like the symbolism here because we've been seeing the crow all episode,
and then
who's the
dove.
symbol of the curse, and then we're seeing the dove, who's the symbol of innocence, right? With Bo.
With Bo, and yeah, exactly. So I like him not really trusting them at first and thinking Sutter sent them, and then that little moment of like, "Oh, I see in your eyes that you're evil." And like, ouch. And when she's like, "Okay, but look at me." And obviously he's not going to see that with her. So,
Yeah, no, this is a really well done scene. I love the back and forth. Again, it's one of those scenes that uses a lot of characters and uses them really well.
exactly.
It feels really natural, really well done. And again, this is another really beautiful scene with the stained glass and the way they walk in. And just
Gorgeous.
really gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Again, props to Shannon Doherty. Beautiful shots.
Oh yeah.
So then we're at Sutter's place, and he's at a table just like whipping bottles for whatever reason. I mean, that's how I spend my spare time too, actually.
course.
So normal.
Yeah.
Then his guys all walk in and say that they couldn't find Bo. And he gets up and they're all like looking at the ground and he starts like going off. He's like, listen to me and you listen real good. Bo's giving the townsfolk ideas and I don't want them getting ideas. And one of the guys is like, no one knows where he's at. And if they do, they ain't talking. And he says, well, you make them talk. This town is mine and it's going to stay mine. When that railroad comes through, and mark my words, it will, I'm selling this land, and that land is going to be worth more than you three are capable of imagining. And then the door opens, and Cal walks in and tells Sutter that he knows where Bo is hiding. So he is a rat.
Dun dun dun. We called it. Bo's a
Yep.
rat. I mean, Bo. Cal's a rat. Ratted on Bo.
I can't.
Sutter all high drama too, but it works for
I
me.
know.
Like he kills it.
It does because it's like a Western episode. So
Yeah.
like the really high drama, again, impersonating the genre and kind of using tropes really works.
Yeah.
Like the guy playing him does a really good job here, and it's really, really entertaining to
It is
see.
definitely fun to watch.
Because I'm like, Sutter, you dramatic bitch, but also I love every
I
moment
know,
of it.
but I'm living for every second of this. So back at the old church, Prue takes off her gloves and tells Bo that they need to get the bullet out. And then she walks closer and kneels beside him and tells him that it will hurt. And then she removes the bandage. And she uses her power to get the bullet out. And when she does, him and Phoebe share a premonition, like during the pain. And in the premonition, Sutter is whipping him. And all the townspeople are there and just watch or look away, except for Isabel, who's being held back by one of Sutter's guys. Then Sutter shoots him and no one does anything, and then lightning strikes, and then Phoebe screams like they come out of the premonition, and Phoebe screams, and then Bo looks at Prue and Cole and tells them that he believes them now. So the whole premonition thing did work.
Yes. And I feel like, this is just establishing the link, them seeing what's going to happen and having to figure it out. Super fucked up that all the townspeople are literally just watching this happen, which is obviously the great injustice that triggered the curse.
Exactly. Yes. So I'm looking forward to see how that continues and if they're able to change that.
Yes. And I also love seeing the softness of Prue and the way that she deals with Bo in this scene and helps him by removing the bullet.
Yeah, no, it was very sweet.
So then we're in the manor in the living room, and Phoebe's sitting up on the couch screaming and freaking out, and everyone's surrounding her. Piper sits across from her and is like holding her arm and telling her she's okay. Phoebe says that she saw what they're going to do to Bo and it was horrible. Leo says, you think he saw it too? She says, I know he did. I felt it. No one did anything. They didn't help him. Nobody did anything. And Victor asks what they do now. Leo says, there's nothing else we can do, but wait, it's up to Prue and Cole. He's like, and you call yourself their guardian angel? What the hell good is a whitelighter if all you can do is stand there and watch my daughter die? Not wrong.
Yeah.
And Phoebe says, Dad, please don't. Piper says, you're not helping. And Victor says, and he is? Why don't you do something? Isn't that your job? The sass. Leo's like, I am doing something. I am trusting your other daughter, Prue. I know that you feel helpless. We all do. But Prue is not going to let Phoebe die. And neither is Cole. And Victor's like, oh, so now I'm supposed to trust a demon? And Leo says, as much as I hate to say this, Cole loves Phoebe. He took a huge risk to come here and try and prove himself to her. And he will do whatever it takes to save her life. And Phoebe says, he's right. Victor says, how can you be so sure? And Phoebe says, because he loves me as much as I love him.
Ah, my heart.
I can't even
fathom this.
No.
It's too much for my soul right now.
I feel like we knew it. It was very clear that we were talking all last episode, Phoebe's not over Cole, Phoebe's not over
I
Cole.
know, but now it's like really being admitted and her saying it and just being open, like, oh.
He loves me as much as I love him.
Yep. And even Leo defending it, like, as much as I hate this, this is the case. He's not gonna let Phoebe die.
Yeah.
Right. And Victor going off on a little spiel, like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, I get it. Phoebe's dying, he's freaking out.
Scared, but also, he's there's not much he can do. Like, Victor, you can't do anything either.
Yeah, and it's also one of those moments where I want to be like, Victor, you're never around, and now all of a sudden you have all these comments about how they run things.
Right, like,
It's
come
like-
on, where were you for the rest of the show?
Literally.
Right,
But I
that
think
was-
everyone's behavior is understandable, and it makes the scene entertaining. Like, I love to watch it.
definitely does. So now back in the ghost town, the boys and Cal are riding through town and some intense music is playing in the back.
So Western.
So old Western. And then we go to the old church and we see Prue is practicing rolling a gun on her arm for some reason.
Yeah, like I always just take guns and like roll them up my
Yeah.
arm to like put the bullets in.
It's
Normal.
so weird. And then Isabel's like, you learn fast. And she's like, thanks, I have a few gifts too. And then through the window, Cole sees the boys approaching and tells them that they need to get Bo out. And he says that someone must have followed them and says that he could shimmer Bo to Leo and then come back for Prue and Isabel. Then Prue says no. And he's like, what do you mean no? He dies, Phoebe dies. And she's like, taking Bo out of here will not break the time loop. And he's like, but it'll save Phoebe. And she's like, well, there's more than just Phoebe's life on the line here, Cole. We have to break this curse by sundown. Otherwise, this entire town is doomed to repeat the same day over and over again. And Cole says, are you seriously telling me you're willing to sacrifice your sister's life for a town full of cowards? And she says, what I'm saying to you is that there's a greater good at stake here. One that I can't just walk away from, and one that you shouldn't walk away from if you truly expect to be good. So I love this here. Because Cole, it's kind of true. Like, it's not just about Phoebe anymore, especially not for Prue. Like, you know, this is what we do. We put our lives at risk to save other people. It is what it is. And Phoebe would do the same exact thing.
Yeah, because we've seen the sisters learn the lesson that being a force of good isn't just protecting the people you love. It's protecting anyone who needs your help.
Right. All the innocents.
Exactly.
Which is what they're doing. And Cole only sees it as like, we're just trying to save Phoebe. Like, who fucking cares about these guys, you know?
Yeah, because the truth is, and maybe he'll get there eventually, Cole isn't good. Cole wants to be good because Cole wants to be with Phoebe.
Exactly.
His motivations, like they've always been, are selfish.
Exactly.
But the protectiveness and the love is driving him to want to be good. And I think it's something that maybe he can accomplish. And I'm interested in seeing how and if he does.
Agreed. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And wondering what's going to happen with him. How he can finally cross that line and start to see like a good person would if that ends up happening, you know?
Yeah, and kind of this like ability where he can maybe learn from the sisters and the way they operate.
Exactly.
And like it doesn't always need to be Phoebe teaching him the lesson. Like here it's very much Prue trying to explain to him like if you want to be good, this is what we do.
Exactly.
Cuz like she said it's not just about saving Bo, it's about saving the entire town to break the time loop.
Yep. It's about everyone now.
So they hear a gun cock outside, and a man says that they know Bo is in there and to come out. Cole says, all right, how do we break the curse? Prue says, I don't know, but I do know it hinges on keeping Bo alive. Then Bo gets up and starts walking toward them. He says, no, it doesn't. The curse isn't about me or about Sutter. It's about them. The townspeople who stood there and watched me die. The only way is for me to give myself up. And Isabel tries to stop him, and he tells her to have faith. Cole says they'll kill you. Bo says maybe. This curse came from my father's people, direct quote. I understand that now. It's meant to heal, to teach the townspeople to act without shame. I have to give them that chance. Prue says helping them to save you saves themselves, and he nods.
Oh, I never noticed that before. You're right. Yeah, I didn't know that.
But this scene really works for me. I think we see a lot of strength in Bo's character, and again, we see him as this great force of good, being willing to sacrifice himself to save the town.
Exactly. I definitely agree. Him doing that is what's the only thing that's going to make this curse go away, the only way to save everybody. And he acknowledges like it's not about me, you know, he doesn't have those selfish motivations.
Exactly. And we see the way that Isabel, the same way we've seen the sisters all fighting for each other when one of them is in danger or has to commit some type of sacrifice, not wanting it to happen, but ultimately letting her brother make the decision.
Exactly, which is exactly what Isabel just did and exactly what the sisters have to do over and over again, you know?
Mhm.
So it's a pretty nice comparison there.
Yes.
And then outside of the church, the doors open and it's all high drama, and Bo walks out slowly, and then doves start flying out ahead of them, and he puts his hands up, and wistful music is playing in the background.
So just another really like beautiful, really dramatic
Yeah.
scene.
That works so well. Like, it's so tacky, but I'm loving it so
Yeah,
much.
no, I was like, I love this.
Yeah, this one.
And again, it only works because this is such a genred episode.
Exactly. That's definitely why.
So then we're in the ghost town, like in the main area, and we see the boys all ride in with intense music playing. And we see Bo being dragged by one of the horses. Super yikes, because like this is something that happened in history to people of color by white people.
I
And
know,
it's
that's so
just,
sick to watch.
yeah, it's not good. So then the bartender and Cal look upset by this, but everyone else is literally just like looking, like not giving a fuck. And Sutter walks over and the boys like bring Bo towards him, and we see that he's tied up. And then Sutter cuts like the long rope around him and leaves just his hands tied. And he says to everybody, I want y'all to see what happens when people cross me. So he kicks Bo, and we see Bo fall to his knees. And then Isabel, Prue, and Cole all arrive on their horses. And Isabel starts to run over to Bo, but Prue stops her and says that he knows what he's doing. We see Bo get up, and Sutter whips him, and people are just watching as he keeps doing it. Then we cut quickly to the manor where Phoebe is sitting up on the couch and screaming as she feels him getting whipped.
Feels every single whip that's happening to him.
Yeah.
That's a rough scene, watching him get dragged like that and be set up like that. Like, it's because those things really did happen in history. So the idea of someone going through that and like being treated with just absolutely no humanity it's really sad to see. But it works so well here. Like, it puts on such a strong performance, you know?
Yes, the scene's really well done. I mean, the images are disturbing, the concept is disturbing, but it is, again, like you were saying, things that happened in the history of this country, which is interesting because I think a lot of what you see in actual Westerns portrays the native people as the bad guys and the cowboys as like these heroes. So I like that this episode does take that more historically accurate stance of having injustices done on to Native American people by white people in power.
Right. Of course. So in the ghost town, Sutter keeps hitting Bo, who just keeps taking it very silently. And Sutter says, "What's the matter, boy? You too stupid to scream?" And hits him really hard again. And Bo falls to his knees, but remains steady and gets up. And then it cuts to Phoebe feeling this. And then back to Bo, and Isabel walks a little closer crying. And then Bo gets up again. And Sutter says, "I want you to beg for mercy." And he hits him again. And Phoebe cuts to Phoebe like sobbing. And then Prue turns to the people and says, "What are you people doing? Look at him. He has the courage to fight Sutter for all of you. You can't just stand there and watch him die. You have to do something. You can take him down." And Cole says, "Sutter can't take all of you out. You need to do what's right." And then Sutter hits, just keeps hitting Bo. And Prue's like, "You can't just stand here and let this happen. Stand up to him. Don't be scared." And then the whip cracks again, and Bo looks over at Prue and Cole standing together. And Isabel is crying and watches as Sutter knocks Bo back to his knees. And people are still just looking at Bo. I mean, at this point, people are starting to look a little concerned. But Sutter's like, "Nobody crosses me." And he pulls out a gun and aims it at Bo. And then Isabel covers her eyes, and somebody shoots the gun out of Sutter's hand. He looks shocked and pissed, and we look and see that it was the bartender. And he says, "I think you just ought to leave Bo alone, Sutter." And then Bo smiles, and Sutter says, "You just signed your own death certificate." Then Cal pulls out his own gun and aims it at Sutter and says, "You want to kill Bo, you're going to have to kill me too." Even though Cal was the one that... And then more people start pulling out their guns and saying that they're all together. And Sutter picks up his gun and grabs Isabel, pointing the gun at her and saying that he'll kill her. And then Cole says to Prue, "Now can we do something?" And Prue's like, "Oh yeah." And she turns to get on a horse as Sutter knocks Isabel to the ground, and he gets on a horse as well and starts riding off as people help Isabel and Beau. But Prue follows him with her gun drawn, and she shoots, and he falls off the horse. And he's running towards the sheriff's office, and she shoots him. And she gets down from the horse and throws him through the window, and Beau and Isabel run over. And she says, "I don't think Sutter's gonna be a problem anymore." And they're like, "What about the curse?" And Prue says, "It's a beautiful sunset, isn't it? I don't think there's been one quite like it in 128 years." And they all smile, and then they hear a gunshot.
Okay. So, did Prue just kill a human?
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like, she really just killed. I mean, I knew he was a bad guy, but she just
But he
killed a
wasn't a
human.
demon.
I know.
Or, like, are we supposed to believe? Because, like, she did kind of shoot him in the side, but, like, they don't really have medicine to save him. So, like, he's probably gonna die.
How's Beau gonna survive?
Well, like, they used magic to, like, take his bullet out and put, like, bandages so he'll heal, I guess.
Oh.
But, like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess she did just kill a human. Or I guess she, like, kind of knocked him to the ground from the side and then just kind of threw him in the window. But, I mean...
But, like, a human's not gonna survive that either.
Yeah, probably not. So...
There was possibly a murder here.
Yeah. Oh, I guess,
Weren't you just telling Cole that you guys don't
yeah, we don't
kill?
do that. Exactly. No matter who, how bad. I mean...
Yikes.
I need to take a page out of your own book there, Prue.
No, literally. But other than that, I think this scene is pretty strong.
Yeah, definitely.
Really well done. Seeing the way the townspeople do stand up with Prue's and Cole's help was really interesting. We see Cole actually taking on that kind of good role to help the people get
more
convinced.
motivated. Yeah. Not be cowards about this situation and actually stand up to Sutter. And Beau being so, like, strong the way he was taking all of this, and that's so painful, like, so difficult. And even through all of that, he had faith in the townspeople to the end. And then when that happened, his like immediate smile of like, good, they did it. Like, they did what they needed to do. Like, he was just so happy no matter what he had gone through. It just shows that he's such a good person. And it changes the townspeople, like, now they know not to let these things happen anymore and to fight together and come together. Like, I love it. I think it worked out so beautifully to me.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful metaphor for how to defeat, like, this bad leader, right? When the
Exactly.
people stand together, one person can't overpower you all.
Exactly. And it never had anything to do with magic. Like, this was a real way to, to defeat the problem without using any magic.
Yes, which is why I really don't like Prue using magic to throw him through the window at the end.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it kind of takes away from that whole, we used our humanity and our...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think so too. It definitely caught me a little bit off guard. But I guess they were just looking for some sort of way to wrap up Sutter's storyline.
Yeah, and I guess get him out of the picture so they could have that final moment between
Exactly.
Prue, Beau, and Isabel.
Mm-hmm.
Which was cute. I enjoyed that.
Definitely.
So then we're inside the saloon, and Cole and the guy from before are in the middle of a shootout. Cole runs out of bullets, and the guy calls him out for this. So he stands up, and the guy laughs and says, "I'm going to enjoy this. See you in hell." And Cole stands with his hands on his hips and's like, "Been there, done that." And the guy draws his gun, and as he's about to shoot, Cole throws an electricity ball at him, and the guy like lights on fire and blows up, and Cole starts laughing like the most ridiculous laugh I've ever heard in my entire life.
Like, cracking up, dude.
And then Prue walks in and sees this, and he looks sad. She says, "Like I said, once a demon, always a demon." And she walks out, and he throws his hat on the floor and then walks out too.
Yeah, he was not happy about that.
Prue, didn't you literally just kill a human 5 minutes ago too?
I know.
And like you also use magic?
Yeah, like you also use your magic to do that. But...
Though, I mean, Cole did say he was never going to use his power again. So.
Right, and he was cracking up about it. Like, that was...
Like, if he shot the guy, maybe it would have been fine.
Right, but it was more like, it was like he enjoyed it.
Yeah. Because I think that's the issue. Like, Prue didn't do it and then, like, was, like, so happy about it.
Right.
Like, Cole's like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, like, didn't give a single shit.
Yeah. But I do like that moment at the end. Like, Julian McMahon is such a strong actor. The way
He
he kind
is.
of, like, does that switch from, like, being so entertained to, like, so sad.
Yeah, and like disappointed in the way and like
And I don't think he's even disappointed in himself. I think he's just sad that Prue saw it.
that.
Yeah.
Could very well be the case as well.
Because, I mean, winning over Prue is part of getting Phoebe back.
For sure.
So, and he knows that. He's not stupid.
Yeah, he's well aware.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this little moment of him feeling like that, it was definitely worked for me.
Yeah.
So now we move to the final scene of the episode, and it's nighttime, and we're in the manor, and we see Phoebe and Victor are standing together with his arm around her, and she looks, all better. And then Piper and Leo are across from them, and Victor asks where Cole and Prue are. Leo's worried that they didn't make it out, and Piper tells him not to even think that. And that's when they shimmer in, and his arm is around her, and she says, ew, and takes it off. And then Victor asks what took so long, and Cole says they had some loose ends to tie up. And Prue asks Phoebe if she's okay, and she says, I'm great, thank you. Both of you. And then Prue looks at Cole, and then looks down, and Leo asks about the time loop, and Prue says broken, they'll never have to live that horror again. And Victor says, so then where are they? And she's like, I don't know, probably living out their lives in a parallel plane, I guess. And Leo's like, don't think about it too much, Victor. It'll just give you a headache. And honestly, same. And then Piper asks if they're up for the rehearsal dinner, and Cole says that he should get going. Then Prue says that's probably a good idea, but Phoebe walks over to him and says, you're not going anywhere. He says, Phoebe, I don't want to cause any trouble. And she kisses him very passionately, like in front of the whole family and everything. And everyone like looks really uncomfortable, but whatever. And then she smiles at him and says, you're staying, and that's that. And then Piper's like, all right then, shall we? And they all head to the dining room, and the crow lands on their windowsill. And that was the end of that.
Yeah. So the crow, again.
Yeah,
It's just
no-
like, it's
no
pretty,
clue.
it's cute, but I also am like,
Yeah, I don't understand the purpose of
like,
it.
are they
really.
gonna go into a time loop? Why is he there?
I know, like, what's the symbolism here? I guess you're right. I forgot that he shows up again at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make too much sense. But I'm so happy. I mean, probably not a good thing, but I love that everybody just like accepted it and was like, well, nothing we can do. This is what Phoebe wants.
Yeah.
And then like all have to have dinner with this demon. Like it's so funny to think about it like that, but everybody's just like, oh, okay.
Does that feel like my birthday dinner?
Oh my god. Low key. We're all just like, oh, I guess this is happening. Low key. Really does. But yeah, no, I love that. And even there he was like, oh, I probably shouldn't, and then she kisses him and is like, no, I want you to stay. Like that is so
but
cute.
also way too passionate of a kiss when your entire family's
I
standing
know,
right
like
there.
your dad's watching you.
Gross.
I can't imagine like maybe a peck or something, but I couldn't imagine doing like a full-on makeout in front of dad. Like that's like such a weird
Do that
thing.
in front of like any
You guys or
relative
anything.
or like honestly anybody at all. Like I don't want to make out with someone in front of other people.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I don't care about that as much, but definitely in front of like family where it's like a little weird and a little uncomfortable, and everybody looked a little bit like
Yeah.
when they look away.
I also give a lot of props to Prue here for not saying anything about what he did and kind of like letting Phoebe make the decision. Because I think at the end of the day, like no matter what Prue's opinion is, it is Phoebe's decision to make. And I think she is kind of recognizing it by not saying anything here, even though at first she's kind of like, well, you should go.
Right, exactly. She didn't let it get further than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I respect that about her. Overall thoughts?
I think this was a really good episode.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Like I went into it knowing this was going to be one of my favorites. I still feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
We get the idea here that Cole wants to try to be good, which I mean was starting to be established last episode, but we definitely saw him trying to act on it in this episode, which was interesting. So I'm excited to see if that's going to be a continuing plot line. No spoilers, but I think it is.
Me too, especially now that Phoebe, like, they're back together, I guess, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of where we're leaving off at. And I'm kind of excited to see how this dynamic works between not only him and Phoebe, but him and the rest of the family. Or is there going to be issues with Phoebe because of this? Like, issues with other demons? Like, I have so many questions and I'm so looking forward to it. And I feel like we ended on such a good note after such a strong episode where Cole and Prue were like the main ones that had to work together, and that's always been like the big issue.
Mhm.
Again, like I said, one of my favorites too. I love the whole genre of it. I think we had very little negative things to say about it. It was a very strong episode overall. And obviously, the whole Victor and Leo of it, I kind of love that too.
Mhm.
And then still at the end of the day, everybody just coming together. I thought this was a phenomenal episode. I've always loved it so much.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, leaving off with the rehearsal dinner kind of gives me the hint that the next episode could be a wedding.
It could be their wedding. That could be happening.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
me too. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you want to reach out to us or follow us on social media, we're on Instagram and TikTok at rewitched_pod. Or you can send us an email to rewitched.pod@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to subscribe to our Patreon, we have several monthly tiers available at patreon.com/rewitchedpodcast. Either way, we appreciate you listening and hope you'll join us back next time for season 3, episode 15, Just Harried.